Okay, well, welcome to the Skills for 3D Creation Task Force Kickoff. We'll explain a lot more about what that is. Can everyone see the slides okay? So we're going to welcome you to the session and introduce ourselves. We're going to give some background on this task force. Why are we all here? Why have we assembled this amazing group? Um, and we're going to do some introductions. We're going to explain a bit about what this task force is and how it fits with the Metaverse Standards Forum and the Education Working Group. Some next steps and some wrap up. Okay, so welcome. So we are here at the Metaverse Standards Forum in the Metaverse Education Working Group. So this group looks at all things related to Metaverse education. So this includes using the Metaverse for education, so things like training, lessons within the Metaverse, but we also look at education for creating content for the Metaverse. And that is what we're looking at in this group, that second part. We're looking at skills for 3D creation. So this group, the wider group, the Education Working Group, if you'd like to join that, there's information here. There's lots of information about the background of the group and how to join. And about us. So I'm Tracy Gardner. I'm co-founder and CTO of Flip Computing. And I am one of the co-chairs of the Education Working Group, along with Rolf and Nelly, who are also on the call. And along with Liz, I am the co-lead of the Skills for 3D Creation Task Force. So I'm going to hand over to Liz, and she's going to do the next part of the meeting and get everyone involved. Over to you, Liz.
Hello, everyone. So I'm so glad to be with you here today. I'm really glad that you're able to join the meeting. As Tracy mentioned, my name is Liz Daly. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Create Access. Just to give some context, I'll share a little bit about who we are. So we are a nonprofit in the Philadelphia area that helps beginners get started with 3D creation. So we're focusing on engaging people with limited exposure to robust tech education and people who are members of groups who are underrepresented in tech. We do in-person programs in our area. We publish free materials on our website to help people get started with 3D. And I think it's important to mention all this just to share the perspective from which I'm coming and why I think the mission of this task force is so important. So as many of you know, probably some of the reason you joined, people interact with 3D technologies every day and sometimes don't even realize that they have an opportunity to contribute to the field, that it's possible for them to get started. And we really see this task force as an opportunity to help make opportunities in 3D more visible for people and help people kind of get started on their learning journey. So I imagine that you share that goal because you decided to come to this meeting today. And I just wanted to personally express my appreciation for your interest in this area because it's certainly near and dear to my heart. So with that, I'd love to share a little bit more about the rationale for this task force, kind of what we're thinking in terms of getting it started and the purpose that we see for our work moving forward. So as Tracy mentioned, the Metaverse Standards Forum Education Working Group focuses broadly on education in the metaverse. And Tracy and I joined the Education Working Group some number of months ago. And as we were attending meetings and engaging in dialogue with the other members, we really realized that there was kind of a dual focus within the working group. So part of the focus was on using the metaverse broadly defined to teach about other content, right? Maybe to teach biology or teach about climate change or something like that. But then there was this other area of the working group charter that really focused on teaching about the metaverse. So how to create content for the metaverse, to create 3D experiences, 3D assets, etc. And we saw an opportunity for a focused group of us to really drill down into that area specifically. So, really focus on organizing information, compiling information, and maybe building a framework to help guide learners who are interested in this area of 3D content creation specifically. So, we decided to launch this task force in service of that goal. And this meeting is really about kind of introducing that idea to all of you, beginning a discussion, and seeing who is interested and potentially continuing that journey with us. So Tracy, you can go to the next slide, please. So again, this is the very beginning of a journey. So all of everything that you hear from us today is up for discussion. We want people's ideas and input. That's why we convened everyone here today. But we do have some preliminary ideas about what the activities of this task force might look like, as well as what we hope will result from the work of this task force in the future. So we think that some areas where this task force may be able to contribute to 3D content creation education is by identifying some 3D creation education competencies across industries and sectors, right? So it's kind of developing a unifying framework that really gives a broad perspective on 3D creation, and give learners and educators the opportunity to kind of understand what those key learning areas are across tools, platforms, and industries. We anticipate that we would be able to publish case studies and white papers to contribute to the field, and ultimately create a register of educational resources that can help guide learning that maps to the framework that we create. All of this, we hope, will make it easier to plan 3D content creation educational programs. It will help learners scaffold their own learning journeys. It will help educators develop programs that are in alignment with competencies that people from across sectors have identified and vetted and tested. And it will make it easier for people to have visibility into what career path opportunities exist in 3D creation, and make those cross industry career moves more approachable and accessible as well. So, on a personal note, when I think about the mission of Create Access, we often engage folks who just don't know where to start. They don't even know that 3D creation is possible, or what areas of the world actually use 3D technology to make them better. And so we think there's a real opportunity to impact the community and the field by making all of that more visible, and kind of helping that journey feel a little bit less overwhelming for folks. So really, I think that's at the heart and the core of what this task force aims to be about. So with that, we know that we have some great minds here in the digital room with us, and we're excited to hear about your background and experience and how you might see that contributing to the task force. And so we're going to ask you to introduce yourselves. Tracy, I don't know, what do you think? Based on group size, do we want to do in the chat, or do you want to do live intros?
Oh, do you think everyone could stick to like a one sentence intro? We think we do that
I
one
know I
sentence
can't,
intro.
but I've already done mine. So
You've done yours, Liz. So shall I go next? And then if each person picks the next person. Okay, so I'm Tracy, and I created the Flock XR 3D creation tool that is for young people and runs in a web browser. And I'll hand over to Sandy.
Hi, I'm Sandy Ressler, recently retired from National Institute of Standards Technology, where I was there for 40 years, which basically means I'm old. Um, I don't really know much about education. I got sucked into this a little bit through the work of Create Access and Liz Daly. It was when I saw what they were doing, it was like, why didn't I think of that? So, and I'm very interested in it. So I'll leave it there.
So I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but one of our introductory questions, which I think is really important to the spirit of 3D education, is actually, what's the most fun you've ever had creating in 3D? So Tracy, I don't think you answered that question. And then Sandy, I'd love for you to answer that question as well,
Oh,
because I
you're
think
right.
so
What's the
much of this
most
journey
fun
is
I've
about the joy, right? This is a field that is rich with opportunity for fun. So I'd love to hear the
It
answers to that.
is. So I think the most fun I've had is when I'm running a user testing workshop with Flock, and I've had like rooms full of young people, and there's just such a buzz. Everyone in the room is creating something different with the same set of skills. So that's me.
And Sandy.
Um, One of the most fun I had was, it was probably 5, 6 years ago. We had summer students coming in, and we have a project at NIST. It was called the Digital Library of Math Functions, and it's basically an online version of a book. And in that book and online, there are lots of 3D surfaces of mathematical surfaces, which is basically, it's interesting, but it's kind of boring. So we had this harebrained idea that I want to display in a single environment all of these objects. So we had this kid who turned out to be like brilliant for the summer, and laid out like 100, 200 objects in a cube. So you're in the middle of all these math functions and you can grab them and throw them around. And we wound up doing lots of demos. And even the 70-year-old mathematicians who were the editors of the books were down one time and said, oh, they sort of liked it, that was good validation of it. But it was fun.
I love that so much. Sandy, do you want to choose who will introduce next? Oh, you're muted, so I'll just go with who's next on my screen, which is Steve Isaacs. Oh, Rolf? Okay, go ahead, Rolf.
Hey, thank you, Sandy. I think you don't need a company. You're a company in itself. You're an institution, so you don't need a company name, I guess. Yeah, I'm a professor at the Fachhochschule Erfurt, University of Applied Science in Germany. I'm co-chair of this working group, the education working group. And the reason I'm here, I really like to empower people to be creative, and being creative in 3D is something so natural, and I think we should relearn stuff like that with any tool. So I think it's very important not only to click on a mouse and be on a 2D screen. So escape from flatland is the thing I'm interested. I was thinking about what I've really created in 3D. We did a lot of events and stuff, but actually I did create more stuff for 3D. So it was in 2D, programming, modeling in 3D. Haven't done a lot in 3D. The tools are not there since years to be creative within 3D. So yeah, that's my thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Rolf. Steve, would you like to go next?
Surely. My name's Steve Isaacs. I'm the Senior Manager of Programs and Partnerships at Epic Games. My focus is on secondary education and supporting educators and students in learning to use our tools and adopt them in the classroom. So my key reason for attending this meeting, this is really important work. I really value the work of Tracy and Liz, so it would be hard to say no anyway, and I wouldn't want to. But I really do believe in the mission and supporting opportunities for students. In my case, through this work, and really for all creators. And man, the most fun I've ever had in creating 3D. My first response was going to be, as a teacher, I was a teacher for almost 30 years, and sitting side by side with students as they were creating things and sort of either helping them troubleshoot or learning along with them or seeing the amazing things they've done was always incredibly inspiring. And then on my side, during COVID, a friend and I were doing a lot of live streaming of teaching kind of 3D and game development. And we did a stream for a while where we created a escape room in Minecraft and just had a real good time doing that and sharing that experience. So there you go.
Thank you so much, Steve. I love following everything you're doing with students. It's super awesome.
Likewise.
Thank you. So the next person in my queue is Fernando. Fernando, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, sure. Yeah. Hello, I'm Fernando Cassola, professor from University of Porto, Portugal, and also from INESCAT, that's a research center from the University of Porto. And I'm professor about immersive environments with the student here at faculty. I mainly teach master and doctoral students about immersive environments. And the key reason, that's it. I teach these things and I research a lot about these things, about these topics. And what was the most funny thing I was thinking? And well, previous years ago, I think in 2012, when I was taking my master's degree, I do a research about using Second Life. Yes, I was a Second Life addicted at the time. Using Second Life to learn and to help students to well, how can we say it, about the history and the culture of different religions. And we use it Second Life. It was my project on the master's degree to they learn about the religion and the culture of each religion using Second Life. It was the most funny thing I have ever. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've personally never used Second Life, but I feel like I missed out. I'm a beginner 3D creator too, so I have a long history to backfill, I think. Awesome. Thank you, Fernando. Next in my queue is Holly, please. Could you introduce yourself?
Hello, hello. Before I start, I'm going to say I've been numbing on some pumpkin seeds. So if I suddenly start choking, just ignore me. So, so I'm Holly New. I am the world's first VR fashion designer. And my company Studio of New is the world's first VR fashion studio. And that basically means that I design in virtual reality, currently using a Meta Quest 2 headset. And I basically design garments that I have pioneered a workflow for my masters to go from VR all the way into 3D CAD. And then through that, I'm then able to put them anywhere. So into Fortnite, I'm currently looking into working with Epic Games, actually, which is really awesome. So I've got a call after this about that. So yeah, they go anywhere. They can go digital and also physical and into production as well. So in terms of the most fun that I've had with 3D, and like designing, I would say that I actually don't have fun, but I love the challenge. And that sounds really weird, but I really love the breakthroughs every project that I do. So at the moment I'm looking at like metahumans and the different pipelines that I'm doing of a company to be able to connect them together and how they're working on the games and the dev side versus metahumans, etc. So every project's a completely new landscape.
That is so cool. I'm getting a little starstruck by y'all, honestly. That's awesome. Thank you, Holly. I'm glad you're here. So next in my queue is Lara, who I may have met a couple times. Lara?
Hello. Hi everyone. I'm Lara, and I work as the program manager with Crate Access, which is how Liz knows me. I work with Crate Access for more than a year and a half-ish by now. I help with all of our online content, in-person programs, helping with like different initiatives like this. So it's nice to meet everyone. My background is from Drexel University. I graduated with animation and VFX degree. So I'm very interested in like the entertainment and like fun part of 3D creation, but I love helping and teaching others as well. So it was nice to meet everyone.
What's the most fun you've ever had creating in 3D, Lara?
Oh, right. I really love when something in 3D also includes kind of like just being out and about and physical. So I've done a lot of motion capture, and I always love just working in the studio because like everyone has so much fun. And similarly with Create Access, we had programs where we had our creators dance and create their own avatars to do like a little dance stage for Create Access's birthday. And I think that was really enjoyable because they learned a lot about 3D while also kind of just like dancing, playing music, and having fun at the same time.
Thanks, Lara. We have a good time. So next in my queue is, oh, Eric, welcome. Very nice to see you. Eric, could you please introduce yourself, please? And the prompts are right here on the slide.
Oh, hi. My name is Eric Chadwick, and I'm working with Darmstadt Graphics Group out of Germany, which is a software company that makes 3D optimization software. And let's see, I've been in games industry. So my background is illustration degree at Rhode Island School of Design, and then got into computer graphics and worked in computer game as an artist for, gosh, like 20 years, and then got into architectural rendering and worked with Wayfair for about 6 years, kind of leading their 3D team and growing the team from like 10 people to up to 100 artists, all making 3D stuff for Wayfair's online catalog. And always been interested in real-time 3D in particular. So help run a wiki for game artists called Polycount. It also has a forum, and we share basically our art in progress, and people provide feedback and learn together and grow. And been with that site for about, gosh, 15 years or so. It's been a long time. So let's see, what else? I'm in the GLTF working group with the Kronos group. Been in those calls for about 6, 7 years now. Kind of helping to grow the GLTF format and creating sample assets and educational material to kind of train people how to use GLTF. And and just informing how we grow the format, what extensions we want to create next. Right now we're working on subsurface scattering and diffuse transmission and all kinds of fun things, interactivity and physics and sound. And probably, let's see, I'm trying to think, what's the key reason for attending this meeting is, I think we've seen in the GLTF ecosystem, there's a lot of need for people to learn how this technology works and what are the best practices to use. And there's just a huge need for that kind of education and in the whole community. And I just love training people. I love teaching. And when I have to learn something, or when I have to teach something to someone else, that's when I realize how much I really don't know and what I need to train myself on. So always love to do that. And then what's the most fun? God, so many things. What was really cool was working on a hockey game many years ago and got to work on the ice in San Jose with the hockey team and putting motion capture rigs on them. And then we got ILM to actually bring their motion capture rig down there and put it on the ice and capture all these hockey players doing various things, fighting and, skidding out and doing all kinds of fun stuff on the ice and all the challenges that was with that, the ice melts over time. And so you get water on the markers. And because it's a reflective system, then it stops the markers from working. And it was just really interesting to kind of plan that all out and figure it out and then actually be there on this freezing cold ice for 8 hours a day trying to capture all these things. Thought that was really fun.
Thanks, Eric. Glad to have you. And offline, I'd love to chat about the intersection of 3D and sports, because I would bet a lot of our beginner creators would get a kick out of that. So thanks so much. Glad you're here. And I think the last person in my queue is Nellie. So Nellie, could you please introduce yourself?
Of course. Thank you everyone for joining. As many of you, I enjoy teaching as well. I'm currently a professor at Rutgers Business School. I teach immersive marketing there. But following a 20 plus tech career in building software, I started my own company, Tangra, and in Tangra we bring together immersive technology with AI and create all sorts of environments where we basically provide educational experiences. And the goal is, as most of you here, to transform, to make the way we teach and the way we learn much better. I'm also a co-chair of this wonderful group, and I'm super appreciative of your joining us. There is so much to be done. Please keep being involved. We have many plans, so I would really appreciate your engagement. As to the most fun I've ever had, of course, I enjoy tremendously creating these 3D spaces, all of them, but you know what? The most fun time I have is when I'm leading, for example, a training, or I'm leading someone in a demo, or just having someone in one of our spaces and observing their reaction. To me, the emotional connection, this emotion, which is evoked in these 3D spaces, is by far the biggest differentiator. So yeah, flat screens, 3D screens, whatever the 3D experience is, that emotional connection is something truly amazing. So yeah, we have, for example, a forest where you can hear the birds chirping. You see the tree leaves kind of rustling from the wind. It's amazing. A tropical island where you can go in the ocean in all, business attire and high heels. So just having these experiences, just seeing and hearing people react and observing those emotions has been tremendously an important experience and also an amazing experience for me. Again, thank you for joining. Looking forward to be working with you.
Glad to see you, Nellie, and thank you for all of your work to support the educational working group and to help us get all of this off the ground. We appreciate it. So I want to acknowledge Lisi from the forum is here, helping with our technical stuff. So Lisi, thank you so much. I don't want to put you on the spot for an intro, but I just want to say thank you for being here and helping us out today. So did I miss anyone with the intros? Perfect. So you all did exactly what I hoped you would do, which was demonstrate both the breadth and the depth of opportunity in 3D technology. So I'm already a 3D tech enthusiast. Your enthusiasm is contagious. And I love the way that so many of you highlighted that so much of what's fun for you about this work or engaging for you about this work is teaching others, navigating challenges, all of that kind of stuff that I think positions us really well to build something really meaningful for people who are just getting started on this journey. So you all are everything I hoped you would be. And I think, you're in the right place and we found the right folks. So again, just really glad to meet you all and glad you're all here or see you again. Some of you I already know.
Absolutely. I'll just echo that. And I apologize, my internet connection has gone down twice. It doesn't normally do that. So really annoying. So, but I'm sure Liz will pick up if it happens again.
And I'll throw the slides in the chat again, just in case anyone missed them and wants to follow along. Your slides disappeared at one point, Tracy, and I said, oh no, but then you came back. So I can certainly pick up if needed, but I'd rather you be here. So hopefully
I'd rather I'd be here too. So
so let's talk a little bit now about an orientation to this task force. We've shared a little bit about what this task force is about. Hearing from you really, again, helps frame that conversation. But we're really here as a beginning to a journey. So nothing here is set in stone. Everything here is up for discussion. And we actively want and need your engagement and your input to help shape the direction of this task force. Before we talk about the work of the task force and kind of next steps and where we go from here, I wanted to just make sure that we're all kind of starting on the same page-ish about who we're talking about here, right? So we use the word beginner a lot at Create Access, but we know that means different things to different people. So we put together, with the support of ChatGPT, this working definition of beginner. And, again, all of this is up for discussion and editing, but really we're talking in this task force about starting with supporting people who are probably at the beginning of their 3D creation journey. That doesn't necessarily mean that they've never touched 3D technology before, but it might mean that they don't know what they don't know yet. We were just in a meeting with our team earlier this morning, and we were talking about beginners who don't yet know how to assess the costs and benefits of using different softwares for the use case they're trying to achieve or the project that they're trying to build. Maybe they're starting to develop some core foundational understanding of the concepts and skills relevant to 3D creation, but they don't know how to transfer them across tools or across platforms yet. People who are learning how to learn in context, right? How do you seek help? How do you make decisions, evaluate your resources? And beginners are dependent on some guided support. Which again is where all of us, I think, come in to help provide that guided support and help identify what is that starting point for a learner and how can they kind of chart a course for their 3D learning, knowing that this field is broad and deep and vast, and there are kind of infinite vectors that someone might pursue. One thing I just want to add to all of this is that while beginners are certainly beginner in their learning journey, right? They have a lot to learn. We see tremendous potential in the people that we work with at Create Access. I'm sure the people that you've worked with in your career to do really amazing things once they have support to get started. So I think we're really just thinking about unlocking the potential that already exists within people and helping scaffold a pathway for them to do something awesome in the many fields that 3D touches. Does anyone have any comments they'd like to add about this or any questions? And again, this isn't a set in stone definition. It's just kind of getting us all mentally oriented to who we're talking about helping when we think about this task force. Any comments or questions? ChatGPT and we created a perfect definition. So again, in the effort to get ourselves oriented to the purpose of this work, I'd love to hear from all of you about how you got started on your 3D learning journey. When we ask this question in other contexts, we get a lot of different answers, but like with the introductions, it helps us understand who's in this space with us and kind of what perspective are you coming from. So this is a shared Google slide. I linked the slides in the chat, and I would love for everyone to just hop into the slide deck, pick a rectangle, and there should be a text box in there, and just write a sentence or two about how you got started with your own 3D learning journey. So please go ahead, just jump in and let us know if you're having trouble. We grappled with what tool to use for this activity. So if it doesn't work, let us know. But we'd love to hear how you got started on your journey. And this could be what tools you used. It could be if someone helped you. It could be a project you had to complete. So this is kind of a broad question on purpose. And Tracy, maybe if you refresh, we might be able to see the responses coming up on this slide. I'm seeing them in my open version of the slide deck.
Yeah, I imagine everyone is seeing them while they're in there, but I am going to reload. And if anyone's having any trouble, just let us know, and you can put yours in the chat and we'll make sure that they get added. Previous one. There we go. So
Interesting.
I'll leave that out of full screen.
So some people had formal studies, some people were self-taught, some people had a problem they had to solve and they thought 3D might be able to help them solve it. So I love this. And again, you all are doing exactly what I hope you would do, which is demonstrate the point that there are lots and lots of different ways to learn. And I would imagine some of those ways might be bumpier than others, right? So sometimes when you have to learn something, you're self-taught, you can't find the right resource, you don't know where to start. You know, it can be a bit of a bumpy road, and a lot of great learning happens on that road, but also there are opportunities to kind of smooth that journey for folks. And I think that's, again, part of the work of this task force is helping make that journey as smooth as possible for people so they can just, you know, jump in and get started with contributing to the field as quickly as possible. This is great. Anybody want to add any last thoughts?
Yeah, or is there anyone who's...
Wow.
Is anyone added in the... Holly's on mobile. Holly, if you can type in the chat, we can add it onto the slide for you. So if you can, and don't worry about typos. We do not care about typos. That is all good. Okay, yeah, and Holly, if you want to just type in the chat in your own time, and we'll move on to the next one once everyone's ready. But you can absolutely do both, and we'll make sure that we get them. And if you don't, you can just email us afterwards, and we'll get them added in. Okay, do we think we're ready for our next question?
I think we're ready, Tracy.
Okay, so let's move on to our next one. So our next one is, which 3D tools are you most comfortable using? So that's a kind of broad definition, interpret it how you will. But if you feel you've got a bit of comfort, you could kind of show someone else something, do something in it. You don't need to be an expert, but which tools do you know about? This is fab to see all this appearing. I'll give you just another moment.
I need everyone to teach me. This is awesome.
Okay, I think we'll move on. This is really good stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to stay out of full screen because we're going to be doing a bit more of this again in a moment. Okay, so that was really useful. That's all kind of got us started. That's about how we got into 3D. So now just a bit more on our sort of task force and what we're trying to do here. So again, as Liz said, I'm going to echo what Liz said earlier about, this is just a starting point because it's often useful having a starting point that we can go from. But we're completely open to kind of changing any of this. But what we're looking at is a task force which is vendor neutral. So that's really important. So it was really good to see a whole range of different tools there from different vendors. So we had some tools that were kind of in the same space, had some overlap in terms of what you could do, but were different tools. And then industry sector neutral. So what I'm really pleased with this group is actually we've got some really good cross-sector representation here. So we've got the fashion industry wonderfully represented there by Holly. We've got games, so Steve and others are here. Eric has a whole load of different industries that he's worked in, and some of us are very much kind of cross-sector and also using education kind of as a domain for 3D creation. So that is just looking fantastic. International, that's really important. So I think we are somewhat international. Actually, we're not too bad, are we? We could possibly be even more international, but it's not bad. And in terms of who we're looking at, we're very much looking at beginners, but a range of ages. So we're looking from young people right through to career switchers who are still beginners. So we're not putting an age on this. We're looking at this beginner skill level that Liz described earlier. And some of the other stuff, we are here at the MSF. So there are other related activities going on at the Metaverse Standards Forum. In particular, there's an ontology working group that's looking at things like terminology and vocabulary. So we'll also be kind of looking to see what's happening elsewhere in the MSF and kind of syncing up where we can. So those were our kind of initial guiding principles that we put in place. And then we had just another slide where we kind of looked at some of the industries, and we may have missed things here. So when we say cross-sector and cross-industry, this is what we mean. We mean all those uses of 3D out there that are kind of happening in marketing and advertising increasingly, in robotics, social uses of 3D, gaming, fashion, all sorts of things. If we've missed any, feel free to mention in the chat, and we will add them to the next version of the slide. So that's what we really want here. It's a really kind of inclusive definition of 3D and an inclusive definition of what a beginner might be. So now we have a couple more questions for you. So I'm going to introduce them both and then set you off, and you can fill them both in your own time. So our next question is, why are 3D skills important? So you're here, so we think you probably agree that 3D skills are important, but we'd like to know why. We'd like to define this a bit more clearly. And then our next question is, what do you see as the biggest barriers to getting people started with 3D creation? So there's a huge amount of experience in the room, as it were, on this topic. So those are your two questions. So off you go on those two.
Shall we give it maybe 30 more seconds, Tracy?
Yeah, I need 30 more seconds, Liz.
And we'll leave the slides open for a bit so folks can always go back and add if you have additional strokes of brilliance that come to you after we move forward.
Okay, and we've got Hollis. So I think we'll move on. And I will go back to full screen there. And we can talk about next steps. Okay, so I mean, first of all, that was just fantastic. We've got a whole load of input there from a real range of people. I think I was kind of nervous when we kind of planned this group that we might get lots of people with the same profile and the same background, but that hasn't happened at all. We've got really good variety here, which is brilliant. So now we're going to talk a bit about our sort of next steps for this task force. So what are we going to do? So Liz talked a bit about the beginning about sort of what we might do. And to make it concrete, what we're looking at here is building something that's like a skills map that sets out a set of skills. And I'll give you a couple of examples of what that means in a moment. And also sometimes called a competency model. So, what are the skills that we're talking about when we talk about 3D skills, and, a description of those skills, and a short white paper that goes along with that. So we're not talking about something that's, a huge, long white paper, but just a short white paper that accompanies our skills map that allows people to kind of orient themselves and get an understanding of what it can be used for. And then in the future, we think we might be able to use what we've created as a way of mapping resources that are out there. So we would be able to say, this particular 3D education resource covers this set of skills as defined by the Metaverse Standards Forum. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And absolutely, I'm going to say what Liz has said at the beginning again, we're open to other ideas as well. This is just something that Liz and I have kind of come up with as a starting position, but we can absolutely discuss this. And that would be the first thing we would do when we put the working group together, when we put the task force together. So here's an example of a competency model. So it's a different discipline. So just to give us an example, so this is one that's out there. There's an IBM data science skills competency model. So it's another kind of technical example. It's actually a fairly short, oh, thanks, Steve, in the comments. It's actually a fairly short document that really sets out these principles. They're numbered, they're organised into sections. We don't need to worry about exactly what they are. We're just looking at the sort of general format. So we've got a kind of concrete idea of what we might be talking about. And then we've got another couple of examples here of other kind of competency maps, skills frameworks. You know, there's lots of different terminology out there, and that will be one of our tasks. You know, what do we call this thing that we are creating? But they exist for lots of different domains, and hopefully we can create one that's, you know, really accessible, easy to use, and you know, is appealing to beginners, that they can go in and see, yes, okay, that's what I want to learn about. Here's the set of skills that I need. Okay, and I think, Liz, was I handing over to you at this point, or was that later? Am I still going?
Either way, whatever you
This is still me. It's still me. Okay. So what are we looking at doing? So we're putting together a group. We think that we might meet for approximately an hour once a month with some asynchronous work in between. So, and then we would come back to the main education working group once a quarter, and we would take over one of the education working group meetings, as we have done today, and we would share our findings and get input with the wider education working group. So if you want to participate in this, we would ask that you join the Metaverse Standards Forum. To be able to join internal meetings, there is a free membership level. So even if you're a small organisation, you should be able to access that. Okay, now it's you, Liz. Sorry, I was trying to hand over too soon.
You know, I love to talk, Tracy. So we hope that all of you are interested in joining us. So this was just kind of an orientation, again, kind of getting everyone's head around what is this task force meant to be about? What are we hoping to achieve broadly? But we really do envision this as a working group. So we'll be generating actionable, concrete work products together, and we really need and want the collective expertise in this space to do that. So we hope you're interested in joining us. And if you are, a very concrete next step you can take is to fill out our interest form. It's a Google form. It should only take you maybe 5 to 10 minutes, but it just asks some information about your interest, your availability, your contact information, as well as a few questions about other things you think we should be focusing on, other industries you might want to incorporate. If you have recommendations for specific people we might want to engage to join this task force, etc. So there is a link right in the slides. We'll also send a follow-up email within the next week or so with some additional details to everyone who's in this meeting. And so we'll link to the form in that email as well. So if you'd like to join us, a great step is to just fill out that Google form. Not all of the questions are required. So if you don't have ideas for some of the questions, that's okay. Just fill in anything that you think is relevant that you'd like to share with us. And then once we get a sense of everyone's availability for the folks who are interested, we'll set up a meeting schedule and actually send out some calendar invites. So more to come once we have a sense of who's going to be in this space doing this work with us. We know everybody's busy. We know folks have a lot going on. So if for some reason you don't want to join us, but you see value in this effort, or you have ideas that you think would help us, just drop us an email. We're happy to stay in dialogue informally. We're happy to hear your thoughts and ideas, even if you don't want to commit to formally kind of joining the task force. Although, again, we hope that you do. So in addition to the interest form, we do have a preliminary project that we think will just help us start to get a sense of the landscape for the skills and competencies that are needed to do interesting things in 3D creation. And so Tracy created a template that allows people who have some familiarity with a 3D creation tool to identify key skills and vocabulary that a beginner would need to create some kind of interesting, meaningful, basic project. And because all of you said you work with lots of different 3D creation tools, we would bet that your lived experience with those tools is plenty of information to do this kind of introductory task. So if there is a tool that you're interested in sharing more about, there is a template for you to complete. It's also going to be in that Google form, that interest form. It's linked in there, and you can just go ahead and like fill out the template. It'll automatically generate a copy of the template. So you can just click that link and then fill in the information for any 3D creation tool that you have familiarity with. That's going to be our starting point for starting to see what themes we notice, what competences we notice across different tools and different use cases to help begin organizing that framework that we've mentioned throughout this meeting. So we would love for folks to do that, and to encourage you to do that. We asked Lara from Create Access to take on this task for a tool that she's pretty familiar with, that we use a lot at Create Access, which is Unreal Editor for Fortnite from Epic Games. And so Lara, could you just take a minute and talk a little bit about your experience doing this task? So if folks feel inclined to do it, they kind of have a sense of what to expect.
Yes, of course. As Liz mentioned, I worked with Unreal Editor for Fortnite to work on this first project, do one of the like first initial testing. Anyone who's not familiar, Unreal Editor for Fortnite, or UEFN, is a platform that's built on Unreal Engine, and it just helps creators create experiences that can be playable in Fortnite. So it's very quick and easy to get started, and it helps them be very creative, which is also the reason why we use it a lot as Create Access in our programs, because the creators really enjoy Fortnite, and it's a good way to get them interested and started with 3D creation. We've used UEFN to have creators create personal islands, kind of bring their identity out or introduce their community. So there's a lot you can do. And I've used it for more than a year at this point. So I was pretty comfortable with at least teaching a beginner how to use UEFN. And when it was time for me to start gathering what are some of the keywords, what are some of the skills that are needed, it was actually a very interesting thing to do, because it's always very different to look at the software and kind of try to see it not from your own eyes, but from a beginner. So I went through UEFN, played around, wrote down everything that I think someone needs to know, things that are maybe a higher level and maybe not as important for a beginner to get overwhelmed with. So overall, it was very fun and interesting, because it's always fun to kind of see things in a different viewpoint. And I enjoyed creating. It didn't take me too long, maybe like an hour or two, playing around in UEFN a bit and then writing down everything I found out. So it was a nice little exercise, I would say.
Thanks, Lara. So if you're feeling like you'd like to do the same for a 3D creation tool that you love or that you have familiarity with, again, I think it would be super helpful in just giving us a foundational starting point for the work of this task force. Is anybody thinking of a tool that you love that you might be willing to help contribute to this activity for right now? And it can be UEFN.
Yeah, I've already said in the chat, no problem if people choose the same tool. And yeah, you can answer in the chat or come off mute.
Oh my gosh, I wish everyone knew about 3ds Max. Thanks, Eric. Cool. So we'll look forward to your your skills and vocab list for that one. Awesome. Blender. Cool.
Blender, excellent.
We heart open source software. Yay. Okay,
and we know Holly has a whole list to choose from.
UEFN, Unreal Twinmotion, Omniverse, nice. A-frame.io, perfect. Okay, cool. So yeah, again, the breadth of experience in this space, I think, is going to help us out a lot with this. So just watch for the follow-up email, or like I said, the template is linked in the slide deck and in the chat if you want to get started right away. And with that, I think I'm handing it back to Tracy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder, you can access the slides, the links in there for joining the Metaverse Standards Forum, and you can access the recording of this meeting and transcript and everything else at the links there. And we have a whole list there of the resources, and you'll have access to those. The MSF portal, if you join the MSF, you can find all of this information. But yeah, absolutely, I would just love to kind of, thank you all. That was just fantastic. This task force has been a while in the planning, as Liz and I were kind of getting it kicked off, and this has been a fantastic first meeting. So I'm really excited about what happens. I think we could build something really, really useful here. Liz, have you got any final words?
Just delighted to talk with you all, and again, just so happy and excited to see the breadth of experience and the different ways that you all came to 3D creation, because I think the collective knowledge can really make a positive difference for the community of learners who may want to get started with 3D or may not know yet that they want to get started with 3D, but could make amazing contributions. So again, I hope if you decide to join us that we'll hear from you via the interest form. We will follow up. Like I said, in about a week, once we have, give people some time to complete that form. And in the meantime, if you are willing and able to complete that template about a tool that you love working with in 3D, that would be awesome. There'll be more time to do that though, so no time pressure on that. I just can't wait to work with any and all of you. Nellie, did you have a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to add, if you are already a member of MSF, but you're not a member of the education group, please join. You have to kind of opt in on the portal.
Excellent.
And we're happy.
And I know
anyone's confused. Sorry, Tracy.
I was going to say, I know some of you will have to dash off to other meetings, but if anyone does want to just come off mute and say anything now, then we'll open up.
I have to dash off to another meeting, but I just wanted to say thank you so much, guys. This has been really awesome. And
thank you, Holly.
sorry to head off so quickly, but right. Take care, guys. Bye, baby.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
It was a
See
pleasure.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's a great start, but I would be careful to also figure out how to operationalize the stuff that we're putting together, because the world needs another collection of guidelines and I don't want to say standards, like a whole, okay, so the MSF says this is what you need to do to get started with 3D. I'm sure there's a lot. I'm sure we could get ChatGPT to come up with a list of stuff that's probably not horrible. I'm more concerned about, like, how do you then operationalize it, which I think is the kind of thing that Create Access is doing. But I just think it's important to always keep that in mind, instead of like yet another collection of academically interesting but non-impactful things.
That's a really good thing to say, Sandy. And I think, Liz and I are very much about the kind of all in practice. And maybe we didn't say that enough, that like the reason for having this is so we can go and use it. It's not so that it can just sit there on the internet.
Right. Anyway, great stuff.
Completely agree. Well, thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Bye.